Hey Shubhashis, welcome to the All Walks of Life podcast. It's a pleasure to have you on, man.
Hi, hi Ishan, how are you? I'm honored to come to your podcast and maybe, I don't know, speak something, make some sense and speak something, I don't know.
No. I'm pretty sure because so for anyone who's not aware, Shubhashis has a YouTube channel and a radio. He's a radio host as well of this podcast or radio show called the VAR show or the VAR show, as many call it. And it's really popular in Nepal and even in India in some circuits. He's got some really interesting guests on him. Baichung Bhutia, Marcus Babbel, Bobby Madley, to name a few people. So just starting off with that, I guess, how did you come across this whole idea of having conversations in this idea of a podcast, really?
So I'll first of all thank you for saying it's very popular. It's not that popular, but yeah, it's kind of popular like among the football crowd, little bit, whatever it is. And the starting might have been very difficult for you, right?
Yeah.
Like reading out the names, like who is it, like who had come? Because like when I do the interview, I'm like, when you give the intro, it's very difficult. Like okay, am I missing out? Will I
Right.
mess it up? Like you were saying some names, right? Like Bobby Madley.
Yeah.
Like you kind of mix it up. At least I'm scared of that when I give an intro in my interview. Okay, like cutting the bullshit short and saying like I'll just give you a brief story. Like what happened is like. I did my engineering and I'm from engineering background. Then I went to Barcelona and I did footballing course and all that. All that is like I'll just in one line I'll describe the full thing and then I came back here and I realized like okay, even if you're knowledgeable, you don't have opportunity. You get what I mean? Like you may be the most qualified, but sometimes that pulls you back because they'll say, okay, we can't hire this person. Maybe he'll take your job, or maybe you're overqualified. So I did a like staying here. I would not speak in English. I would generally speak in Nepali, which is very normal. And the thing is, I'm still planning to go to Australia for my masters. I'm pursuing masters in cybersecurity. So I wanted to keep in touch with my English. So I don't lose the flow. And I approached the channel, and they said, "Okay, you go ahead and speak." And on that way, yeah, it started out, and that was it.
That's great. So when you were saying you approached the channel, so what did they ask for? And if you are allowed to, you can go ahead and name the channel as well. But did you just say that, as you mentioned, you completed this scouting course in Barcelona, and you are a football fanatic? You like watching football, you like talking about it. So did you just say that, and you'd say that I'm interested of having this, and this is my qualification? Would you guys be interested, or how was the process like that?
See, basically, there are multiple things why I got it, okay, and
Yeah.
it's not like black and white. The thing is, I was conducting a tournament,
Right.
so I had gone to football tournament for school level, okay, and I had gone to approach few people for sponsorship, and so it was like one of them was the owner of the channel also, okay, and plus he was my dad's colleague, so even that helped, yeah, of course, but. Uh, so yeah, that's how I got into it. Like after the tournament was successful, and plus basically, see, I'll to be honest, if I would not have gone to Barcelona and done my courses like what I had done, probably I would not have got because that sometimes like it's a sad thing, but in this part of the world, we take into consideration whatever stuff you do in foreign or if whatever they say actually basically. So yeah, I think that helped, and yeah, it is like the channel's BFM 91.2 megahertz, which is one of the big channels, and I was very fortunate for very different reasons to get it, and probably I don't know how it works. Like normally, I think people would get it if you are talented enough. I think if you can go ahead and like actually you need to market yourself. Like when you
Yeah.
go there, like it's like you might have all the talent, but if you cannot say what you bring on the table, they'll be skeptical. And even if you say I can bring this, they'll still be skeptical. So like in the initial phases for me, I had to do basically what they kind of said, like because of course they knew much more than me, and they still know because they are running one of the most successful radio stations of the country for the last 15 years, and they know what works, but I had a different approach, and so yeah, I think I don't know what was the question I forgot, but I think I answered some part of it.
No. I think I got the general sense of it. So one thing you touched upon over here was that like you talked about how in Nepal, and I think in India as well, I think it's not too dissimilar. Like for example, when we look at the coaches in the Indian Super League, the ISL, like most of them are, let's say, foreign coaches, and I'm not taking anything away from them, but it's just that I've worked with a lot of people in the industry, and they've said that if you are any, let's say, English person, Spanish coach, South American coach, and you haven't even done so well in your coaching journey, you will always be given a preference just because you are of that nationality, you have that footballing background. So, i- in a way, it's just a way to get your foot through the door. And I mean, who am I to say? Because even I'm pursuing education abroad, and that's one of the primary hooks of it, because I want to understand, let's say, how football works in the UK. And even if I may feel that I can get the education over here in India, there are a lot of networks to be built, a lot of contacts to be made just living over there. So I do feel there is a lot of benefit to that.
So by the time you're just speaking right now, right? I just opened the ISL Wikipedia, and
Yeah.
out of I think
Feel free to share
out
your
of
screen if
10
you have.
teams, out of 10 teams, I think 6 are Spanish, one is Irish, one is Scottish, and
Yeah.
2 are vacant, and which probably will be again foreigners. So
Yeah.
like even I can forward you a video of mine. You can, if you want, you can integrate it, like
Yeah.
how I asked similar content to the CEO of Bangalore, and he gave a good reply. But like you see where they come from, and genuinely, like, no discredit to them, because
Right,
like
right.
they see, suppose you are running a podcast, you will call someone who will make it beneficial for you, right?
Yeah.
You get what I mean? Like this, like they would want to have success, and it's just like similar stuff with India, right? If a foreign person wants to hire a coach in regards to cricket, they'll come to India.
Yeah.
You, you get what I mean? So maybe in long run, maybe Indian coaches will be good enough, and some are good enough. You have like Yan Lo and all, but general concept is like if you get from abroad, they are good. I think so. That's what I have seen, and when I have spoken to many people, genuine, they will not accept it on the face of it, because there will be a fake outrage in social media from
Yeah.
the people. But that's what the concept is, I think.
So I think there's this very famous quote that Baichung Bhutia talked about. He said that, so he was asked in, let's say, a press conference that why do you think that there aren't Indians playing in Europe, or why aren't there Indian footballers playing in South America? And he said that it's a very similar thing. Why don't you see Brazilian cricketers playing in the IPL? How can you compare, let's say, Indian footballers right now to play in these glamorous leagues like South America and Europe, when we just aren't ready enough? He said that when the West looks at us, when Europe looks at us, when the rest of the world looks at us, they look at India, let's say, and even Nepal in that sense, as a cricketing nation, as a nation that's very fond of cricket, because that's what we've been successful in for the last few years. So it's going to be, let's say, almost ironical for them to say that, oh, why can't we hire, let's say, a Indian kid or an Indian coach rather? So I do genuinely see that, yeah.
Definitely, and like no, you can just talk in terms of India also, because I was in India. Like I did my schooling, like from I did till my 10th standard. I was in Siliguri. Okay, it's a place
Okay.
near Darjeeling. I don't know, you know.
No, I was born and brought up in Calcutta, so I have visited, like, say, the northeast as well, because Calcutta is
Okay.
close
So you
to
to
Siliguri.
Siliguri.
Yeah.
So I did my schooling there. Okay, till 10th, and then I did my 11th, 12th in Bangalore, Bishop Cotton, and my
Oh wow, okay.
engineering also from Bangalore.
Oh, that's nice. I mean, see, yeah, I mean, I when I went to so I went to school. I did most of my schooling in Gurgaon, which is next to Delhi, if you aren't aware. So yeah, most of let's say there's a school called Path which I went to. There are a lot of Nepali kids who do come down here because they feel that in India, who are fortunate enough and who actually can afford, let's say, an international education, like it here, because it gives them access to international education, which isn't, let's say, available in a lot of extent in Nepal in that sense. So I think that was your.
Sorry to cut you out, but that's general in everything, right? Like, see, in India also, those who are very fortunate enough, they go abroad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they'll go to Singapore or they'll go to UK.
Yeah,
Like it's just like the ladder. Like
Let's circle back here. So we talked a little bit about your journey into getting a show on the radio in Nepal. But let's talk about how you actually got into football. What were your early memories of football? What were your early inspirations of watching football?
the place where I did my school. Okay, there's St. Michael's in St. Michael's School, Siliguri. Okay, we had two stuffs. One was study and one was sports. And in sports, there was by the name of sports, there's only football. Like like if you want to be a star or if you want to be recognized in the school, you need to be good in football. Like studies, if you are good, they'll call you nerd or you'll be famous only in 1-2 months throughout the year. But football was the thing.
Yeah.
Not that I was bad in studies, but it was like in being good in football was like the plus point, and it's like you are the star. You are like Shah Rukh Khan of the school. You get what I mean? Like it was somewhat like that.
Yeah, you
Okay,
get
so
all
you know,
the
like
ladies,
everyone.
you get all, let's say, the fandom, everyone
Yeah.
likes you.
Yeah, exactly. You get what I mean? Like and like it's that everyone wants that.
Yeah.
Like they will say no, I do not want it, but like everyone likes getting recognized, or everyone likes getting like coming to them and asking, oh wow, you are so and so, like you go and play.
Yeah.
Like like a small stuff. Even if two of them come, you automatically go up in their eyes, and it boosts your confidence. Like something like that. And then I remember like we used to play, and that's how everything started. And yeah, I don't know, like that's the early memory I have. And genuinely, like, and football is easier to play, right? Like even from school point of view, if you have 1,000 children's school, you can't say them to play cricket, because if you say them to play cricket, you require a huge field to incorporate everyone. Football, you can give them 10 balls and say everyone play. Different, like maybe like 20 of them in each, like 10 in each with each ball. So it's like I think that's what the school's thinking was and what we got into it. And yeah, that was how football happened. And then going back to Bangalore, I realized that football is quite famous here. They give it a lot of value, but the way we used to play in Siliguri, Darjeeling, all that area is very high quality compared to Bangalore. No disrespect, but in Bangalore it's more like the privileged, like there is the commercialism or whatever you call that of football in it, where you wear fancy boots, you require good ground and all that stuff. Back in our school, it was nothing like that. It's like with torn shoes, everything, like used to play. So it's like that was like the memory of football. Yeah.
No, I genuinely feel that's true. So there are a couple of points to touch on here. So firstly, like I feel that I think that's why it's such a popular sport all around the world, not only, let's say, in the West or whatever. It's just because it's so easy to play, as you mentioned. We just need a ball and people can start having a kick around even. Whereas, let's say, in other sports, be it hockey, be it cricket, you actually need proper equipment to be in place. And I think that's why there are a lot of people who initially they may fall. Let's say, even if I am born into an Indian family, an Indian household, an Indian culture, I would initially be drawn towards, let's say, cricket, because that's what everyone watches around me. But some of my better memories, some of my earlier memories have been in football, because it's so easy to play. It's so easy. It's just that if I have a plastic ball at home, I can play with my cousin even. So I do feel that's very profound about football in that sense. But touching about go on, sorry.
Yeah, so it's like in cricket you require people, right? You can play one-on-one, but it's not that fun. Like a proper fun, at least if you have five people, you require big ground also. I mean, like you require a decent size of ground, or else you have to play all that, the smaller one, what you call one hand, one drop, and all that stuff. You require, I mean, like all that is there, but like in football, even if you have a smaller ground, you can customize how many people are playing, and you can play that maybe a 2-on-2. That part of cricket, I think, is what pulls it back is you require a good ground to enjoy. Like if you are a cricket fanatic and if you want to play a good game of cricket, require like good amount of people and a good ground, at least in my opinion.
No, I think that is true. I had this question in mind. What do you think about, let's say, the future of cricket? Because initially, when I speak to my grandfather, he talks about how test match cricket is the purest form of the game and that's how it should be played. And I go to university in the UK and I talk to some of my professors there, and they talk about how they don't like the new generation having the IPL and the 20 over cricket. And even now, when I've seen so many broadcasting of the IPL, which is super popular in UK as well, but let's say in Hong Kong they have introduced the T10 league, and how far are we to, let's say, having a super over only as a cricket match? So, do you have any ideas of the future of cricket?
Yeah, I'm not that educated. I cannot give that much educated answer on cricket, but yeah, at one time I used to watch and play cricket too. So what I feel is generally people get bored. Yeah,
Yeah.
like if I don't know whether have you gone for a test match like to watch?
I haven't physically been to a ground to watch a test match. I have watched it on television, but I have watched a T20 game, several of them actually. But that's because yeah, it's more entertaining. It's like going for a movie, something like that.
Definitely. So in test match, like I don't know whether it's true. Okay, I can't like fact check it, but my friend was like in Bangalore when they used to play test, like the ticket price used to be like very less, like 10, 15, 100 rupees. Like just where you go and watch. Like because in the second, third, fourth day, I think no one goes to watch.
No
People
one.
go in the first and the last day. So in the between days, it's like so if I don't know who is enjoying it. Like people will be enjoying it, but maybe the older generation who are used to it. Like I may enjoy football. Like like every generation says that oh in our time this was good. So you have that more than enjoying it, it's nostalgic for you. There's a difference. People confused. Like, of course, T10 is the future generations or the mid generations. What from 90s to now, they'll enjoy T20 because they are more nostalgic because they have seen IPL grow or a T20 grow with them. Like you know what I
Yeah.
mean. Like since its inception when they started playing, and plus they would not prefer T10. They would prefer, but they'll say oh T20 of ODI was better because we have seen it happen. Like at least IPL, I watched the first game. I think I was in school, and it was I think KKR versus Bangalore, and
Yeah,
KKR
yeah.
won it something. I think what's his name? The New Zealand
Brendan
keeper.
McCullum scored 150.
Yeah, he scored some 150 something. So you see one thing. I may not have watched IPL ever after that, but I
That
remember the
memory
first
stuck
game.
with
So
you.
it's
Yeah.
nostalgic for me more than enjoyment. You get so it's attached. So I feel yeah maybe in future maybe what you said like T10 super over may be a thing. I don't think it will go down to super over, but T10 maybe. But again, no one forecasted T10 maybe 20, 30 years back. So
Yeah.
you can
Who
never
knows?
say. It's like you need to change how everything goes. Like I'll say you in terms of football. I'll give you an example. Like many people complain about VAR, but it is a need of the hour, and it is not something like people. It is introduced to maybe slow down the game. It is introduced to increase the efficiency of the game. Yes, of course, it will slow down because it's in the initial stages, but in the longer run, maybe 50, 60 years, no one will remember that.
Yeah.
Oh, in this season, the decisions were late by 2 minutes each. No one will remember. They may remember it only for writing books, but other than that, I don't think so. And coming back to your thing, like cricket, I don't think it'll go to super over. It may go, but I can't say, like Super Bowl will be like it will be very weird, don't you think so? Like how like you just play one over and go.
But yeah, I think it sounds super like weird to us, like because we've been, let's say, brought up with T20 50 over cricket. But I'm pretty sure that later down the line, asking my grandfather, he would have found the concept of 20 over cricket absolutely absurd. He says that if you can't sit down to watch a proper test match where a fast bowler is bowling a 6-7 over spell, how is that not how can anything else be cricket, right? So I think, as you mentioned, I think we have this sense of nostalgia. Yeah, I think it's very true. It's not only in sports. You can look at everything else in life as well. So when I talk to my mother and ask her that why is she not paying any heed to technology, why doesn't she want to, let's say, learn about computers or do something else, she's like, why do I don't want to. I prefer it my traditional way. I like it the way it was back in the day. So I feel there is a big sense of that as well. But just to share a quote, so Harsha Gogle is probably the most famous cricket journalist out there. He said that when he was asked about why Test match cricket is dying compared to T20 cricket or whatever 50 over cricket even, he said that we can't compare Test match cricket to 20 over cricket. We have to compare Test match cricket versus TikTok, versus YouTube, versus Netflix. Because today's generation, we don't have such large attention spans to sit down for 8 to 9 hours to watch a proper Test match. Every 15 minutes, if our attention span runs away, we switch the tabs and move to YouTube or start watching scrolling through our Instagram feeds or doing something else. So they said that you can't compare Test match cricket to T20 cricket. You have to compare Test match cricket to, let's say, TikTok or YouTube, something like that.
Definitely, like this might be very controversial and it might come back to haunt me. Okay, but I personally find watching football game also boring. It's quite boring, dude. Like if you sit down for, I mean, unless it's your
Yeah.
favorite team, and like once I don't know, like once you start doing analysis and everything, right? You can't see football the same way you used to see as a fan,
Yeah, true.
because you start seeing falls, and sometimes like when I was doing with Rajat, your previous guest,
Yeah.
we used to, like, I watched a game. I think it was Real Madrid's 3 games, at least 9 times each,
Wow.
like 90 minutes.
Wow.
Like, of course, I put in fast forward, but like, uh, it's like it gets on your nerves, and like, because you're watching the same thing. Yes, of course, you like it. I'm not saying you
Yeah.
dislike it, but the act of watching it again, like like when I go, I want my favorite team is Liverpool. When I open the mobile, I want Liverpool to win. But
Yeah.
and especially with Liverpool fans, it's scary to watch games. Like,
Yeah.
I really can't invest that much emotion.
Yeah.
This year was fine that we won the league and all, but it's like a lot of emotion you have to invest.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
No, true.
I'm not ready to invest that much. Like, especially when with 2013, people say it's a very big deal. Of course, for me it was very big because we are so close to winning. It was very close. It's like, and when you lose, it's like we almost reached the final part, and someone
Yeah.
pulled the rug from beneath our feet.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, so it's it's just one of the many false dawns we have had, and Klopp was extremely good, yeah, and of course yeah, that only, like, I think I've again deviated from the main thing. And yes, of course, like how you said, like how Harsha Bogle said that you are competing with many things. Like, of course, now TikTok is banned, but you have a lot of other
Yeah,
similar
yeah.
platforms which are even more
Addictive.
I don't
yeah.
know, depending on person to person what it is, how they feel about it. But you have to compete with that, and probably, yeah, so it's difficult. Yeah, it's like very difficult, and I don't know, I doubt anyone born after 2000 even watches
Right.
cricket, like,
Yeah.
I mean, like test cricket.
Yeah. So, see, the point you touched upon, like, let's say, the newer generation actually being, how do I say, not sitting down to watch proper 90-minute matches. And there have actually been studies done. So the Premier League actually released this statistic that since they started putting out highlights on YouTube of every single game that was played, the number of people who used to actually watch the full 90 minutes on, let's say, the television or whatever streaming platform they used declined drastically, because they said that I can easily just watch a 5-minute clip which will show me all the best parts of the game, and that's all I need to know. And why should I invest 90 minutes only watching my team when I can watch, let's say, half an hour, and I can get all the games' scores and whatever best clips happened. So I feel that is very true. But like, the romantic in me who really likes supporting the team to the fullest and watching every single moment of that, I feel I don't particularly like that, but I can understand how we are moving in society.
The point I made is only for people who watch on TV. Okay, Like if you're going to ground, it's a very different experience, and you will of course go. Like few games what I've gone, it is like I would want to go again and again.
Yeah.
But on TV, like unless your team is doing good, you wouldn't want to watch, because like it's a lot of like emotional investment. Like okay, like I can only speak for Liverpool. See, we have been underperforming for quite a while.
Yeah.
And it was the same story every year, and I may have reached to that mindset now. Like now someone might say that no, I'm a United fan. I even if we lose, I watch, because you just have started losing
Yeah.
in the last 7 years. There's a very big difference. The more you go forward, make it 10, 15 years more, you will not want to watch.
True.
When you see now they think they'll win the league. If next year they don't win the league,
Yeah.
then it will hamper the spirit, and after that they'll be like, okay, let's see what happens. So it's like that. It's like going to the game. Of course, any day I will go, any day, and watch whoever is the manager. Any team I'll go and watch in the field. But on TV, I would have to think over, like whether I want to watch it, or if it's only worthy of a highlight or to watch. It's just a personal.
No, I feel the same way. Like going to the ground is, let's say, a very different feeling as you have, because so I've been fortunate enough to watch Liverpool play as well, like live, and I can understand, let's say, it's totally a totally different experience, because that's a surreal experience. It's like how people associate to going to the church or going to something of those kind of activities, because you feel connected to a much larger group, and even if you don't know the person standing or sitting next to you, but you know that they're a Liverpool fan, you will instantly have this connection with them, which is totally lost if you say that you're sitting down to watch it on television. So yeah, I think that's not.
Yeah, definitely. Like even like people say that okay, this ground is boring or that ground is like UEFA Super Cup is pre-season friendly and all that. They say all that. It may be. I went to watch few. I went to watch one Liverpool versus Chelsea earlier this year.
Yeah.
It was very boring. Okay, the game was very boring. Okay,
Yeah,
but then
yeah.
the full process of going there, it's an activity which you would want to involve. Like but like if you are watching the same game on TV, midway you may get bored.
Yeah.
Like then you have the option of changing it, but when you go to a game, like you're invested,
You've
you go
invested the
there
money,
and
you've
everything
actually-
like a full day or a full
Yeah.
week or a full holiday is revolving around the game. Okay, I'm going to the game, so I'll roam also. So it's like that. That's at least for people here is that way. I think so. Those who have to travel to UK to watch.
So there's this so you must have seen the Champions League final, which we lost against Real Madrid, but the leaving the match aside, like Liverpool fans I've spoken to who went to that game, they said that that was maybe one of the best experiences they've had in their life, because Kiev as a city was totally red. There were only Liverpool fans around. There was nothing else. So everything prior to the game was just all over. You see, it's a sea of red. Just Liverpool chants all day, every day, and just this experience of being, let's say, in a group. And as you mentioned that when you have invested, then you would want to, let's say, make the most of it. So yeah.
That's the thing. Like when you go there, you want like see. Those who went for Kiev, they would have come from abroad, from all over the world.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you don't want to go and like be
yeah.
sad that okay your team. Of course you will be sad your team lost, but you don't want that to affect you, right? It's like a holiday for you. For many people, they have taken their hard-earned money and they have bought that specific week from their employers. That okay, I'll go for holiday this week and that may be the only holiday they get throughout the year, and they are going there so they'll enjoy it, right? And it's a atmosphere, and people actually forget that football is just a game. I know, like it has a lot of other factors that it influences, like maybe finances or maybe many cases it gives
Politics,
livelihood,
media,
whatever. It
yeah.
comes under the same bracket, and it's like end of the day it's just a game. Like it's just because of the fans the game is running. So fans should enjoy at the end of the day. That's my feeling. That's what my feeling is. Like, and when you're going there, you would want to enjoy. You don't want to be sad. Okay, you lost, you'll be sad for 5-10 minutes. But the same cannot be said when you're watching from your home. what happens is, and especially if you're watching it alone, what happens is, if they're losing, you can switch it off, or you can change your channel. Or how Harsha Bhogle said, you are competing with YouTube. Okay, there is my favorite YouTuber or someone whom I follow. His notification comes that he puts up a new video, so I can go there, right? I have that comfort of going there. But when you are in the ground, you don't have that. Or even if you have, you don't. You are already there. The atmosphere is there. I think that plays a part.
So just touch upon that when you talked about, let's say, football being just a game, and there are many more important things to care about in life. But I think, as you mentioned as well, so we should just enjoy that feeling of watching the sport and enjoying the sport. But I think we can circle that back to, let's say, if you want to totally enjoy that sport, you have to be really, really invested in that. You have to be really, really invested in, let's say, Liverpool Football Club, as we are as Liverpool fans. And that's how we get that much joy. If we were just a neutral fan watching Liverpool, I don't think we would be enjoying the game as much. And that's why when I mentioned, that's why this thing that, this point I'm trying to make is that just because we want to enjoy it so much, we are invested in it so much. That's why when our team loses or when it performs badly, it affects us so badly, if that makes sense.
No, I completely get to your point, like how you have to invest yourself, and yeah, I get that. But what I mean is, like, you take it as a game. You may be invested. Like, I'll give you a similar example. Okay, like I don't know, I forgot the example, so I'll continue. It's like uh, you are invested. Okay, you follow your team religiously. You follow the people religiously, but you need to draw a line. When the game is over, it should not affect you after the game. Like, it should not affect you mentally. When if you lose, you don't get sleep, or you think about it for 3-4 days, because it's not in your hand. Even if you have the best of ideas of how to play a game, it is end of the day your club's coach who will play what he wants to play. You
Yeah.
can of course invest, but like, people, like, I don't know whether you are part of all these groups online on different platforms. They are very toxic.
I don't
like,
I don't indulge myself in any Facebook groups or any of these groups who talk about
they
we
are
should be
toxic.
playing a 3-4-3 and we need Timo Werner in the summer transfer window, and if we don't get that, our lives are distraught. And
When I say I'm speaking from their point of view, it's like, you need to get a life.
Yeah.
Either you are just doing this to mess someone else's
yeah.
ideology and what that person is thinking, or it's that you just don't have any work and you're too invested in this and no one cares. Actually,
Shubhashish,
no.
I think it's a
What-
mix. Shubhashish, I think it's a mix of both. I think it's a mix of both, and I think that the second point you talked about, I think there's too much free time that these guys have on their hands. And what generally happens is that see, I talked about Facebook, but it's very much similar on Twitter as well, and even to a much larger extent sometimes, because on Twitter you have this opportunity to ping any celebrity or any footballer in the world without any such social ramifications. So if I go on to, let's say, on Twitter and say that Joel Matip had such a bad game, he's such a bad defender, we should have never signed him, and we should totally get rid of him or whatever, and you just point that towards Joel Matip, and you know that, and you feel that there is some sense of, let's say, you've got a victory because you've been able to mention him, or and by any chance, if he replies to your comment, or if he even sees it, you feel on top of the world. Oh, I'm able to impact him. Whereas in real life, I'm pretty sure that if you ever met that celebrity or that footballer or whoever in real life, you would never have that negative remark on him, or even if you did, you would never point it in such an abusive or abusive manner. You would go up to him and say that I really like you as a player, whatever, but this is a critique I may have of your game, and maybe you look into it.
No one says critic in real life. It takes a lot of guts to say.
Yeah.
Like, to anyone that
Yeah.
this is wrong. It is very difficult. Even if
sure.
you have a team you hate the most, it is very difficult to go up to their coach and say, I hate this style, because that coaches, see, whoever are managing, playing, involved in any sort in Premier League are the cream of football.
Yeah.
Someone sitting in Siliguri or in Nepal may have, but cannot put his perspective as the law. Like, It's your perspective. Yes, you can have one perspective of your own, but uh, someone like Jose Mourinho's perspective is highly more appreciated. That's why he gets so much money.
Yeah.
You get what I mean? So these people get very worked out. Okay, Jose Mourinho is bad. No, he is not bad. He's a very successful person. He does not care what you are. And like I'll say you like one more thing. Like we have this general concept. Okay, I don't know that you agree with me. So it's like if I support Liverpool, I have to hate United. It's not that. You get what I mean? You can appreciate them how they play. See, most of us don't even know why there's a rivalry between United Liverpool. Like you get what I mean?
Yeah.
That rivalry is more down to what happened back
in the
because
day.
both are working class and whatever they had their cultural issues back then, which does not transcend to Asia. It may in terms of that what we only see is these two are the most competitive side, but for them it was much more than that.
Of course,
Similar with Celtic Rangers, it is more religious stuff, which people here won't even get it. So you can probably like both. If you do not like both, we need to learn to appreciate when someone is doing good. That is the sad part which we cannot. Like like some like the most famous example is people say you either like those who like Messi they don't like Ronaldo. Why is that so? Both of them are very good. Both of them are once in a generation footballer.
Yeah.
If you can appreciate both of them. It's not that your uh, opinion matters to them. They are doing their work very well, and of course you pay in somewhat their salary, maybe through TV rights, whatever you buy, or merchandise you buy, or something you buy. You're paying the salary in the long run, but that does not give you the chance to just criticize anyone just because you are a fan of someone else. Suppose you like Liverpool, you can appreciate Sir Alex Ferguson here.
Yeah.
No, you get what I mean?
Yeah.
He may not be a good manager, I don't know, but you can appreciate him.
For
like,
sure,
okay, this guy did something. He won trophies. I don't like him, but he won trophies. He made United successful. Similar with United people, I think most of them appreciate Klopp. It's like, but in all these groups, okay, again, there are very few who just spread toxicity, and my point of view, like saying that football is just a game is for them, who spend a lot of time investing in all this stuff, and probably they don't get much out of it, which is very sad. Like with their knowledge and the amount of analytical skills they have, they can excel in other fields a lot if they invest their time wisely.
Yeah. Things to unpick here. And first of all, when we talk about this aspect of rivalries, be it Liverpool United, be it Celtic Rangers, or any of the massive rivalries, even Mohun Bagan East Bengal in India, is that you are so invested in your club, it almost becomes tribal in that sense. So you don't even want to entertain what that side has to offer. So even if they may be, as you mentioned, they may have had a great coach in, let's say, Sir Alex Ferguson, or they may be playing a good style of football, or even when they're playing against you, and they may have had a good move or they scored a good goal, you wouldn't even accept it just because this is your club, these are your people, this is your ideology, and anything other than that is a total no-no. And I think this is a sort of Marxist ideology that's been stemmed called identity politics, and it's not only in football but stemmed down to fields such as um, governments or even scientific fields. When they look at institutions which are, let's say, left leaning in their ideologies, wouldn't even entertain anything that may be centralist or even sort of right wing. It's because we have this agenda and we wouldn't even listen to another person. Someone who may be conservative in their thinking will not even identify to a, let's say, a liberal idea. And I think that is very harmful for society, Shubhashis, as you mentioned, because we always have to appreciate the other side to come to terms, so that there's a lot to learn. There's a lot to learn from United, however bad we may think they are. There's a lot to learn from, let's say, another political ideology that we may not think our political ideology aligns with. Because who is to say that our ideology is correct, right? Who is to say our playing style is correct? Who knows that maybe what Sir Alex Ferguson was doing for a vast amount of years and how many trophies he gathered in that time who says that is there's nothing to learn from there and there's only negativity there? So I think that's a very stupid way that people look at sports or even society in that way.
Definitely, and it's like, like how people say, "Oh, this is very dull football." Football, like I'll just take an example of some other team like Barcelona. It's like they say our way of playing is this beautiful style of football where we pass out from the back. It's like your style was different before
Yeah.
Johan Cruyff came. And Johan Cruyff has come very recently in terms of the wider history of Barcelona. Like, if Barcelona is established maybe 120 years old, I don't know how long it is, but if it is suppose 120, Cruyff has come just in the past 20 years.
Yeah.
So you're 100 years prior, you are playing some other brand of football. Like no one has a, like, of course, and the fans will say, I want to play this style. Okay, that style is, maybe it is soothing to the eyes and you like it and you can appreciate it more. But, like generally, end of the day, if most of the fans won't care if you're winning. See, at least for Liverpool fans, they don't care as long as they're winning. Okay, we don't care what style we play, and it's like like how people say this is boring football. And see, in the last 10-15 years, we've had so many different managers win the Champions League, and all of them have different ideologies. Maybe playing out from the back, maybe counter attack, maybe whatever they have, counter pressing, whatever. So it's like you can have different ideologies and still succeed.
Yeah.
Like our society may have to learn from that you can have different ideologies and still succeed. The thing is, you have to learn from those ideologies. Suppose Guardiola defeated Klopp, so Klopp will go back and look into Guardiola's ideologies and how he played to counter it, right? Basically, he's learning his ideology to counter it. So, as a society, you need to learn someone else's perspective before countering it and trying to improve on yourself. So, people are not ready to do that. They will only say, my ideology is good, I don't require improvement, which may not be correct in most of the times.
I think it's not correct most of the times because when we have that approach, and even if our ideology is correct, we wouldn't even entertain. So we would, whenever, for example, you may have a different point of view to mine. So whenever you're speaking, I wouldn't be listening to what you are speaking, but just identifying a moment where you may, for example, fall short or may mispronounce something and say, oh, look, Shubhashi said something wrong there. I'm going to target him in my next article or my next podcast or whatever, so that I can win one up on him, or just show him that why I am correct in society and why people like Shubhashi shouldn't talk or shouldn't get the opportunity to talk, which I feel is really bad. But let's look at, let's say, a more wider aspect. And something I wanted to ask you about is, so I went to schools and I had a lot of, as I mentioned, Nepali kids who did attend school with me. And when we were playing football, it was always that the Nepali kids were much better when it came to football and when it came to like just athletic performance as compared to, I wouldn't say all the Indian kids, but a majority of the Indian kids. So I kind of wanted to ask you, as you are Nepali, but you have had an Indian education as well, why do you think that is? And do you actually think that is true?
No, it's again like comes down to like the experience, right? It's just like a lifestyle, I think. It's not like something like this. I mean, like, I don't know. I don't have a proper answer for that. Like if you take when you say Indian, like many Indian kids, like again, India is a very big place. You need to at least like from
maybe North India. Let's say North India.
But North India also you have.
Okay, Delhi. Okay, Delhi. Delhi. Let's say Delhi.
Yeah. So like okay, from Delhi, I don't know. Yeah, I don't. Like, maybe I think so. What I can give an educated answer to whatever knowledge I have is, maybe in Delhi there are not many grounds, and most of your lifestyle is maybe inside a room, and maybe you spend most of your time playing games virtually. So maybe down to that. I think so.
Right.
I'm not sure. I think that is the closest I can come to give you an answer. If you take something like Manipur, where maybe the internet connections or something are not as advanced as a Bangalore, so they have to find other means of entertainment, right?
Yeah. So you Because I think this also may be true, and this is again me looking out from the outside when I'm looking at Nepal and the sports there. Do you think that it is also true because, let's say, Nepal has, let's say, a bigger following when it comes to football than, let's say, cricket in that sense? Or do you think, or what's the ratio there? Because in India, it's very much, let's say, even 90-10, if I have to put it, that cricket is so much more loved in the country.
No, like people follow football, yeah, of course they follow a lot, but then it is a generally worldwide. It is following is a lot, and first of all, Nepal's population is very less. So the 10% what you say of India is also maybe more than what Nepal
Yeah.
is. Okay, and
Yeah.
cricket is going up because you have had someone who is excelling. Of course, when you have someone, if you see like if you have a footballer from India who goes to play in Premier League, your amount of following will go very high because you know that someone has gone there and played. Similarly, from Nepal, there's a guy called Sandeep Lamichhane who plays cricket.
For Delhi
Who
Daredevils.
yeah, he plays for Delhi and he's playing for all around the world. He plays in a lot of leagues.
Yeah.
So after that, what happens is you see a pathway basically for youngsters. It's like, okay, he did it, I can do it. There's a pathway how to follow, which was not there before. Like, suppose if I maybe after again this is again I'm taking myself too seriously, but if I make it into football and with all these interviews, now people after me may have that
Yeah.
more confidence to approach right this foreign footballers. They'll say, okay, this is the pathway. Someone from Nepal did it. You get what I mean? So it is not impossible. Like if suppose someone like Sunil Chetri would go and establish himself as a player in maybe what you call Houston Dynamos where he was playing, or maybe Sporting Lisbon where he was for some time, then you would find more Indian people following that because you can see him on TV in the highest stage. But since that is not happening, and so that's why you have a, I think, relatively lower thing. Similar in Nepal right now, because the amount of cricketers as a lot in comparison to what Nepal was producing before and now has increased in the worldwide stage. I think there is little bit more. You'll find more people going to a cricket match like in a stadium than a football match in Nepal. If it's a Nepal game, you'll have equivalent, but I think there'll be much more fanfare about a cricket match.
Get back to, let's say, some of the interviews you've done because you touched upon it there, and I feel that that is true, that if there is an individual who puts that landmark down, then it's much easier for, let's say, that community to say that, oh look, he's my brother and he did that, so maybe I can learn something from him. Or if you are living in a community, then people would say that, oh, he's just a guy from our community, and if he's stayed along us and if he's been able to grow into such a big celebrity or such a big personality, then what is to say that we can't do it? So because I've been listening to some of your podcasts that you've done on the VAR show, and you've had some really interesting guests on there, maybe you could just share some of the most interesting things you may have taken out from the conversations you may have had, because I'd be interested to hear your perspectives on listening to these experienced people from experienced backgrounds.
So I don't know what you like. I'll just give some my opinions. What I got to know. See, most of the people, okay, they're not unapproachable. Like how people think they are like that they are aliens and we cannot approach them. No, it's not like that. If you approach them, maybe they'll take time, but they'll revert back. And another thing is like many of the coaches or players even those who are not in the limelight, they are very lonely.
Yeah.
Like they starve themselves. I think they do not get that limelight. What a Mourinho would get even if he's not managing. No,
Yeah.
suppose a manager from East Bengal gets sacked, he won't get that. They don't care.
Yeah.
And football is very very low in terms of fanfare in
The people-
India and Nepal even. Like even
the-
if you take someone like Gaiska Mendieta,
Hmm.
okay, who is a 2 times UEFA midfielder of the year. when I put up his video, there was no fanfare. You get what I mean? Whoever has seen, okay, they don't even know him.
Yeah.
So it goes on to show that the people who watch or are watching football are of the recent generations, maybe 10-15 years, and maybe before that they don't watch much, or once you go away from football there is not much limelight, like it's a very because you're continuously used to that autograph and this and that,
Fanfare,
which fades away. Yeah, it fades away with time, and then these people are lonely and they want attention because that's what they have been taught,
Yeah.
that you are a star, you need to get, and if you approach them and talk, they will talk to you. And yeah, that's the only and one more thing I learned was from a guy called Raymond Verheyen. Okay, he's a Dutch coach, and I don't know that you know him. He's been in the news a lot for criticizing many people, including Jurgen Klopp. So he said one thing like, people generally, all these coaches have something called the halo effect. Okay, where once you are a coach, whatever you do is correct, which is not true. That's what he said. He's like, you might do, like Jurgen Klopp does 8 out of 10 things correct regularly, but the 2 things he does wrong. So people should not appreciate that. People should say that, okay, you are doing these 2 wrong. Similarly, like he says that if I say, Ishan, I'm going to criticize you, the first thing that comes to in your mind is negativity. Like, okay, he's trying to put me down. But criticism is me saying you something so that you can improve.
Yeah.
Be it bad, good, bad, whatever, but it's just to say, the reason I'm saying it to you in my mind is, if I say him that, he'll improve. The worst thing I can do is I can say, okay, your work is not good, I'll keep quiet. Then I'm promoting you to put substandard work. So criticism is important. So that's the 2 things I think I learned the most out of, like, if I had to, in the back of my head, if I can remember, those are the 2 things I
No. I genuinely feel I genuinely propagate that in the conversations I have, is that I think it's very important to have this kind of, let's say, free speech, and also us being open to the idea of critique, because so I was talking to Rajat about this as well, and I asked him that why do you think that in youth sports there are many youth sports who don't keep scores nowadays, and I said, I asked him that, do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing in coaching and youth coaching specifically? So he talked about that he didn't particularly like the idea, and similar to mine is actually, I believe, very much in the same lines as he put out. And he said that we in society are making everything very much easy for the individuals out there, so that because we are born in, let's say, the most easiest time of all the generations that have been there, so everything is put on a plate for us, everything is spoon fed to us. So anything that maybe even remotely a critique is not accepted, because they would look at it that, oh, maybe he's just telling me something like that because he wants my spot, or he wants to show that his knowledge is superior to mine, or whatever they want to brand themselves as. So I think that's there in every part of society, but it's just that people have to be more open-minded to say, and be humble actually, to say that, oh, I may take a seat back and actually hear him out to say what he has to say.
definitely, that's something, yeah, of course, very important, and it is. I mean, we are talking about that only for quite a long time, right? Like how we do not appreciate, or a society as general do not appreciate others' ideology and perspective. So this is the same. This comes along the same line only, I think. Like, where you do not take on someone else's perspective and think your perspective is correct.
Listen, Shubhashish, I had a great time speaking to you. I think I got to learn a lot about how, let's say, you got into podcasting, and just the casual person you are when you look into conversations, and that's something I'd like to do as well with my show, and promote it in the future. I would love to have you back in person, or maybe sometime when I'm in Nepal, because it's been a long time since I've actually visited there. So I'd love to come back there sometime. So, and maybe have a sit down conversation with you. But it was a pleasure speaking to you. If there's anything you'd like to promote, feel free to. And yeah.
No, nothing. Like, everyone can listen to Ishan's podcast. Yeah, that's all. Nothing much. Yeah, if you want, you can. If you like listening to players and somewhat, I don't know whether it's interesting also or not. It's a very rudimentary style of interview what I do. If you want, you can go ahead and listen. But I think Ishan's one is more interesting. You should go and listen to his one.
Thank you, man. You're very humble. Thanks a lot for coming on. Thank you.
Thank you.